Australia and New Zealand. It's odd, or what I found surprising is that when I go to the UK or the Australia and New Zealand road shows, that they will sit there and grill me about why it doesn't do this, why doesn't it do that, you should make it do this, and I have to take notes because they want these changes put to the product. And the rest of the development staff will tell you that I send emails called airplane notes. I'm on the airplane trying to read my notes because I scribble it very quickly when the people are talking to me, type it into the plane and send it and cause all sorts of consternation back in the office. The US guys, for the most part, just sit and listen. You know, they listen, okay, thank you, and they don't give me the feedback. So I have fun going to the road shows overseas. We still do the user group meetings. We do the Revelation ones, multi-value. Last week I was at the Seattle area PIC users group, showing them Open Insight 9.2 and the connector technology that goes in there. And the feedback from them is weird because they're multi-value users, they're multi-value developers. They know the technology under the scenes, but their apps, for the most part, still look like 1970s technology. You know, it's green screen. There might be some screen scraping, might be some graphical stuff. But they were most interested in Seattle with the brand new editor and the SQL connector. They're willing to buy the product just so they could use the editor with their multi-value applications. It's like, ooh, these cool forms, pop-ups, report builders. Ooh, that's a neat editor. How much does that cost to see? There you go. We'll do some special interest user group meetings depending upon, you know, a particular technology. We called in to a client who's, you know, presenting to a medical board. You know, they're installing software into a hospital. They say, Revelation who? So you have to come down there and say, here's Revelation, here's what we do. A neat thing that there was a multi-value show, 2 weeks ago, International Spectrum Show, was held in Colorado. And the Colorado multi-user group had an application contest of who can make a multi-value application that runs completely on a thumb drive. It doesn't write anything to the hard disk. The winner was Bill Montgomery with an AREV-based application. The other 3 entries were also Revelation-based. So the only ones in the multi-value community that were submitted into this contest were Revelation-based apps. Not quite sure what that means. I hope it sends a message. I hope the message is you should buy more Revelation and use it. But we'll see. And there's also something called the NoSQL movement. Have you guys heard this? Okay, a couple people have heard it. Probably the main site to go to is called NoSQL.org. There's an idea that, you know what, relational databases might not be the best answer for everything. I'm shocked. I was appalled. I said, can you get me on your list? Can you, start advertising with us? Or we start advertising with you? But the idea is that there are actually people who know that relational databases don't fit all sizes. And so we're going to try to make some more headway with that. So we talked about what was going on with the recession, how we had to hunker down. What we did not do is raise any of our prices. I think that the Works price has been the same since we took over Revelation. I don't think we've raised it once. I would also make the argument that we continue to add value to that every year. Never products, no price rises there. As a matter of fact, I would even make the point that we lowered the price there because the price per seat, which we had set up before the recession hit, the Never products now come free. So if you're buying, if you're in the 9 series and above, you get the Never products for free as soon as you go into multi-user system. So we've done what I think we could with our prices, but in the meantime, we kept rolling new products and features into the mix. So what are we doing in the near term? The near term being between now and then, roughly, the next 12 months or so. Where Open Insight 9.2 is coming out shortly. We have modified in 9.2 over 1,600 pieces. And this could be, we made a new dictionary item, we modified a program, we changed the screen. Like 1,600 things have changed so far. The beta testers who had raised their hands earlier have seen the product. The feedback's been pretty good. We have some really new things in there, which I think I cover in the next couple slides. We expect to release this based upon feedback, from the beta users in either May or June of this year. And you guys will tell us. We're not going to shove this thing out too fast. We're going to take our time. We're going to do it right. Inside of Open Insight 9.2 is something called O for W. Now, some of you have already seen some demos of it. Some of you here are actually running production systems on it. It hasn't been released yet, but the beta of this product was so solid that when we started showing it to some select people, they took it. Said, can we have this right now? With O4W, we actually got to the point that we have 1.0 is built into OpenInsight 9.2. It's only called 1.0 internally. We had to draw a line in the sand probably 2 months ago and say, okay, stop, no more new development. We can't document this because every time we do a screenshot, we go and change the screen. So, and Brian's doing most of the work on this. So what Brian did, he's making all the changes behind the scenes, not changing the screens. And as soon as we release 9.2, he's going to change the screen, so we're going to update all the documentation for you. It's going to be, we expect the 1.1 release to come in just after 9.2 comes out. You know, if you want to see O4W, Friday morning sessions, back to back. Bob Catalano and Brian Chomsky are doing, you know, how to use all the screen parts, how to make the screens, forms, reports, and dashboards, and then Brian goes into all the APIs built behind it. In keeping with the Revelation philosophy, most of O4W is written in O4W. So we wrote the APIs, which let us build the screens, which caused us to write more APIs, which made us build more screens, and so on and so on. More of our near-term plans is the connectivity. Inside of OpenInsight 9.2, we have a D3 connector, a U2 connector, and the SQL connectors. The ideas behind these is that we want to be able to use the data on these back ends. So TigerLogic's D3, IBM's, Rocket Software's, Universe and Unidata, and flavors of SQL. And the ones we've worked with so far are Microsoft SQL, MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle. And the idea with these connectors is that once you set up a connection to this data source, all of your OpenInsight code, screens, pop-ups, reports work the same as they would against OpenInsight data. So I can go to a SQL server and open a file to a file handle, do a select statement, do a loop, do a read next, do a write, do a delete, do whatever I want. You could even set it up that if you are working in linear hash, you know, in our multi-value database, and you need to go to a SQL backend, that we have tools that will help you move those tables, the dictionaries, and the data over to SQL with the same names, and then your code doesn't change. You now have that SQL backend. So for those of you that are VARs, or you resell packages, and someone says on the bid or on the RFP, you know, has to work with a SQL database, you can say yes, without changing your code. No more putting in the connections, no more putting in the data sets, no more putting in the queries, using the same basic that you're working with now. Lots of enhancements and improvements to these technologies, and we realize that we are not the only game in town, that we need to talk to these other databases, and we were able to do it in the past with a little bit of work. It was kind of hard, it was kind of bumpy. We think they were making it transparent now. The guys that I showed at the SAPUG show, multi-value guys, last week, they were very happy with it, so hopefully you'll be happy with it as well. This is another thing that when we showed the first cuts of this in the UK last October, November, something like that, people wanted it then. The guys, it's like version 0.2. No, we can make this work. So that's going to be real nice. Okay, so that's what I have for right now. I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, and then I'm going to come back after that. But our keynote speaker is Tom Wilson. He is the publisher of DBTA magazine and the president of Unisphere Media. You know that we advertise mostly in two magazines, International Spectrum and DBTA. International Spectrum, all multi-value, unabashedly, just big multi-value guys. DBTA works with multi-value and with mainstream applications. So Tom has a neat perspective that he has a foot in both worlds, that he sees trends and ideas that are going on that we don't necessarily do because we are multi-value guys. We try to expand our view, but for the most part, when our customers say, do this, we just keep working on what we're being told to do. But Tom has a good view of the whole world that we're working with. So let me introduce Tom Wilson.